I'm gonna be honest with you guys, today's video is kind of a big departure from last time. Still in that rabbit hole obsessive category of life, but today I'm going to solve some Murdoku puzzles with you. So I'm going to solve a few of these for you guys, and I'm going to just talk out loud my thought process while I do it, which may or may not be annoying. I guess we're about to find out. And I hope you'll enjoy and maybe try to solve right along with me. If you're new to this whole Murdoku thing, maybe you've heard about it from people or seen ads somewhere, or maybe even saw the books at like Barnes& and Noble. Murdoku is this murder mystery logic puzzle. Same bones as Sudoku, except instead of numbers, you're placing suspects into rooms of a crime scene. The clues tell you things like who wasn't where, and you use pure logic to figure out who was actually alone with the victim. There are 2 puzzle books out right now, and a third one dropping in October, and I'm playing the puzzles that are free on the official website. So if you want to solve right along with me in real time, you can. By the way, I'm Elle, and this is whatever I'm into right now, and right now, this is very much what I'm into. This is Murdoku. This is an easy level that I downloaded from the website and put on my iPad so I can show you guys how it works. This is very similar to Sudoku in that there can only be one person per row and per column. The difference, obviously, it's not numbers, and also you're not going to fill up every square with a different person. Once we kind of get started, you'll get the hang of what I'm talking about. So this is an easy level, so it shouldn't be too difficult. We got to place these 6 people into all these different rooms with the clues given to us. And process of elimination. So, Anthony, he was in a car. Well, we got 2 cars here, so I'm going to put an A here and an A here. Just to say that, hey, like this is the only possibility of where he could be. Brock, he was on an oil slick. So B and B. Now, if Brock ends up being, say, on this oil slick, then Anthony cannot be here, right? Because that would be taking up the same row. There can only be one person per row, per column. Let's continue on. We got Crystal. She was sitting in a chair. So we will just mark C, C, C in each of the chairs. Diane, she was alone in the waiting area. Ooh, okay. Well, here's the waiting area. And if she's alone, that means no other person is in that entire room. So now we know that Crystal is not in that room at all. And we officially know that she's here because that's the only other chair. Let me mark Diane. Diane could be here, 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 or here. Let me go ahead and X out this column because now we know that Crystal is here. I'm actually going to go ahead and put her there. Okay. So now that we know she's there, I X'd out that row and that column just because it helps me. See better where everybody should be. Okay. Then we have Emilio. He was beside a shelf. All right, well, there's a shelf here, so we can put, because this is the storage room, it's not the waiting area, so we should be good. There's a shelf here, but we already crossed off this column, so he can't go there, and he can't go on top of the desk. And this is a separate room, so I switched to my eraser. We have some shelves here, so we can mark him E, 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 and technically he could be, well, actually no, we know that he's not there. In fact, we know that that's where Brock is, because remember, Brock is on an oil slick, and there was only 2, and we know it's not that one. So let's go ahead and just fill him in. That'll help us get the rest of them. Yeah. All right. Ooh, that clears up a lot of them for us. So now we can already see that Anthony has to be in this spot because he's in a car, and that's the only spot left in a car. So we can go ahead and mark him. X out that row and the column. I know technically you can't be on top of a plant, but I just like to make it look neat like that. Okay, that also means that Diane has to be here because it's the last spot available in the waiting area. should probably make the letters a different color. Maybe I should have stuck with the light blue. Just want to make sure you guys can see that. And let's cross out this. Okay. Who are we missing? A, B, C, D, E. Emilio, who's beside a shelf. The only spot left for him is here. So, let's exit all this. Which means Vaughn, who's our victim, he was alone with the murderer. So the only spot left on this board is right here. So that's where our victim is, Vaughn. Which means our murderer is Crystal. Okay. So really not that difficult. Again, this is an easy level, so shouldn't be too much going on there. This is another easy level, but just going to give you another example of what this looks like with even more people. You also have to pay attention. It lets you know what can be occupied and what cannot be occupied. So a boat can hold a person, a chair, a pathway. What cannot be occupied is things like tables, these flowers, trees, things like that. So it's usually pretty common sense, but it's good that it has those reminders there. Okay. Also, some of these puzzles will have like an extra little clue or rule that's outside of our suspects, but this one does not have that. The killer was alone with the victim in the same area. That's the general way that we figure out who's the killer. All right, so now we have Alba. She was beside an empty boat. Okay, so she's beside one of these 3 boats, and the boat has to be empty. So I'm gonna go ahead and A here. So now in the lake. So I couldn't put it here because it's not in the lake. Usually when they say beside, it means like in the same area as well. Look at that, actually says it right here. What does beside means? The left, right, above, or under something and in the same area. That's, yeah, we can't be on the lily pad. I mentioned that there. Okay, Blair. She was in the bottom row. Okay, so she is gonna be down here somewhere, which I'm just gonna X off these objects that you can't occupy, but I just might be able to see it like that. Okay, Daphne. Oh, sorry, Cassian. He was sitting in a chair. All right, so C, 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 C. It's all the chairs. Okay, now Daphne. Daphne was beside some flowers. Right, beside flowers in the same area. Yeah, okay. So she could be here, here. She could be here. She could be in this chair, because it doesn't say that Cassian's the only person in a chair, it just says he was sitting in a chair. So technically she could be there. Oh, and here. But obviously she couldn't be on this side of the flower because we know that Blair is in that bottom row. Okay, I think we got all the flowers. Elias, he was in the restroom. Restroom, okay. Doesn't say that he was alone. So there's a possibility that Cassian could be in there too. All right, Fina? Fina was on a path. Okay, that's a lot of marks for her. She could be in a lot of places. Now, normally I wouldn't mark up. If it's somebody who could take up this many spots, I wouldn't even bother marking her all over because it just gets kind of chaotic to me. Okay, Gordon, he was in the bonsai exhibit. All right, here's the bonsai exhibit. Ooh, the only spot he could possibly be is here. That's the only available spot in the bonsai thingamabobber. So I'm gonna go ahead and X out this column. We will X out the row as well. Ooh, does that tell us there's only one more chair left, so Cassian has to be in that one. So let's cross out this row. And this column. Okay. All right. Before we move on, let's go ahead and mark Hannah. Hannah, she was on a boat. I'm on a boat. Okay, we'll put H here and H here. All right. And then Vince is going to be our victim. So obviously he's last. Let's see if we can determine anybody else's position. We have Daphne beside some flowers, because I only see one D right now on the board. Oh, no, there's two. Okay. Sitting in a chair, we did Cassian. I'm just going to actually put a little check mark for him. And Gordon. Okay. Ooh, Elias was in the restroom. There's only one more spot in the restroom, so we can go ahead and X out this column. And this row. Ooh, and that gets rid of that other, what's her name? Daphne. Leaving us with only this one. So now we know that Daphne is right there. So we will X out her column and her row. Okay. What else we got? Vina was on a path. Oh, only one spot for Vina, so that's where she is, I guess. I know that F looks weird. Yeah. Okay, which means that can't be there. Let's cross out her row as well. Okay. Oh, there's only one more boat, so that means that that's where Hannah is going to be. Oh, we got... Okay. So we did Hannah. We have Elias, Daphne, Vina. All right, Blair. Oh, look at that. I forgot to X that one out because I forgot that Cassian's in that column. Which means Blair has to be here because it's the only available space on that bottom row. So let's go ahead and X out that column. Okay, mark her off. Alba. The only spot Alba can be is right here next to this empty boat. And that, I think that's everybody. Yep, that should leave us with Vince. The only available spot is right here next to this tree. So our killer is Daphne. She is in the same area. She's the only person in the same area as Vince. Ooh. That's our killer. Okay, medium difficulty. Do we have any extra rules? Doesn't look like it. Okay, gives us what can be occupied and what cannot. All right, so this one should be a little bit trickier, but we'll see. Maybe we'll get lucky. Okay. So in this one we have Anthony. He was alone, so we're gonna wait and put him somewhere later because obviously I'm not gonna fill up the entire board with A. Ben, there was a framed painting on his square. On his square? Oh, framed painting. So that can be occupied. Okay, so Ben is either gonna be here. There's another framed painting. He could be here. He could be here. I think that's all the framed paintings. Those are easels, so I think we're okay. Okay. Coralie, she was beside a statue. All right, that's a lot of possibilities. Oh my. There should be in a lot of spots. Let's see, this includes the chairs. Okay. And she could be here as well. Oh, and here. I think that's everywhere, but we'll see. Delilah, there was a woman alone in the gallery 1 row north of her. Okay, where's the gallery? Okay. So there's gonna be a woman in here that is 1 row north of her. Does not mean that Delilah is in the gallery. She could be in the sculpting studio. Yeah, I think that's the only other place that she could be. And she could be in the gallery. So let's kind of hold off for a second. We'll keep that in mind that there's a woman 1 row north of Delilah who's in the gallery. Not Delilah, the woman. Well, she could be. We'll see. Everly, she was beside an easel directly south of it. Okay, so she's going to be south of an easel. We can't be in that spot. So put E here, E here. Okay, the chair is somewhere she could be. Okay, I think that's all the spots she could be in because she can't be on top of an easel, so we can't do that. Oh, but she could be in this chair in front of that easel. Okay. Fritz, he was on a carpet. Where's all the carpets? I see, okay, we have it's here, 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 here. Fritz could be on any of these squares. I think that's all the carpet. I think so. Okay, what does this say? Javinra? We're gonna call her Gina because I feel like it's an R in there, but it's after, I don't know. She was the only person sitting in a chair. Ooh, okay, so we can already, oops, switch. Actually, I do need the eraser. So we know that anybody in a chair we can go ahead and erase, and we'll put G there instead. And that eliminates, I think that's all the chairs. Oh, there we go. And now we can put G in any of these chairs. And she is the only person who could be in a chair. That's why I erased those other people. G, a lot of chairs. G, that's everything. Hartley, he was beside a table. All right. He could be here. He could be here. Could be here. Table. Oh, no, wait, he can't be right there because. Oh, jeez. I'm trying to realign that. Okay. Because that's a chair, so. But he could be here or here. And he could be here, but not there. Okay, I think that's all the tables. And then we have our victim. All right, so this one's a lot trickier. Let's figure out if we can determine somebody's location. Let's look at this clue again about Delilah. There was a woman alone in the gallery, 1 row north of her. So we know that there's going to be a woman in the gallery. So let's see what our possible options are. It could be Coralie, Everly, we'll call her Gina, and it could be the victim. Well, let's see. Coralie was beside a statue, so yeah, it could be her. Everly was beside an easel directly south of it. Well, we know it's not Everly because there's no easels in the gallery at all. I'm going to go ahead and erase that one. For Gina, she's the only person sitting in a chair, and in the gallery, there are no chairs, so it's not Gina. So we're down to, it could be Coralie or the victim, because unfortunately the victim could literally be almost anywhere. So we'll keep that in mind. She's beside a statue, so there's a few spots that she could be in. So by looking at rows and columns and kind of reassessing some of these clues, we go back to Delilah. Not only was the woman in the gallery 1 row north of her, but she was also alone in the gallery. So we can eliminate these men that we have in here. I'll rewrite. You know what? I'm gonna just rewrite any missing ones. Let's see. So she could be here as well. So now these are the only spots that she can be. But we can also eliminate an entire row that she could be in. If she is 1 row north of Delilah, obviously she cannot be in this bottom row because there's nothing south of that for Delilah to be in. So we can eliminate that as a possibility. And yes, I'm kind of going off of the assumption that the victim is not in the gallery. And we'll just see from there how it goes. So I could be completely wrong, but let's figure it out. We have C could be in this column or this column. Doesn't look like there's anybody that could be in this one, in this row, besides her. So that might be where she's positioned. Because like I said, every column and every row needs to have somebody. So we're gonna, I think we're gonna go ahead and solidify that she is in that spot. And I'll erase the other C's in a second. So we're gonna go for that. It's funny because I'm wondering if any of you guys are watching this right now and you've already like figured out that she's not there or something, and you're shouting at me like, "Nope, that's not right." Let me get rid of these other C's so it's a little bit less cluttered. Okay. All right. We also got to keep in mind that Anthony is in this. We don't have him marked anywhere yet, and he is alone. So we got to kind of see if we find a spot where he could be in a room where he's completely alone. So obviously not the gallery. I'm thinking I mean, it's possible he could be in the supplies room, but we don't know that for sure. So now that we have Coralie here, Delilah's going to be one row under her. So that means Delilah could be here. Oh, let me switch back to this one. Here, here. Oh wait, no, yeah, she could be there. Okay. I just wanted to make sure that it wasn't only Fritz that could be on a carpet, but it's not. Okay, so she could be in any one of those spots, even in another room, which means we could go ahead and X out these two G's. I keep accidentally hitting the eraser because based off of what we're doing now, we know that Delilah has to be in this row. And this is all hinging on the fact of Coralie being here. And like I said, I could be completely wrong, so we're gonna see. You know what? I'm realizing right now that this is wrong because we should have done, all right, actually, hold on. I got us. Okay, this is why I did it on the iPad, because it's a lot easier to erase. But I just realized that we are wrong in Coralie being there because we already know that she's in this room. That check mark. That she's in, well, her or the victim are in this room. And they're alone. Right, they're alone and they're a woman, so none of the men can be there. What I forgot to check was the fact that Ben was there in a framed painting on his square. And we have these two framed paintings, but he can't be in that room. There's only other one framed painting in this puzzle, and that's up here. So that's the only place he could be. Now, when I had Coralie there, it X'd off this whole column. So now we already know that Coralie is not there. So, but we do know Ben has to be there. All right. Ooh, this also helps us out because since only a woman can be in this space, and we have a carpet here, and we only have one carpet space over here, and nobody else can be in a chair except for, who was it? Oh, Gina. She's the only person who can be in a chair, so this one wouldn't count as being on carpet. It's Fritz. There's only one spot where he could be. So let us see, look at that. It's making a little more sense now. Okay, so now we have, what do we have? We have Fritz and we have Ben. I need like a better color for these. Or maybe I should open this in a different app that I can kind of grayscale this a little bit. Okay. So we have Ben and Fritz. Who else can we figure out from here? Okay. Everly was beside an easel directly south of it. Remember, we had her underneath all these easels. But because she cannot be in one of these chairs, she has to be, oh, no, actually, she could be here. So let me just mark her. She could be here or here. Because even though this is X'd out, it's still there. It's just saying that she can't be in this row. So she could be here or she could be here. Let's see if we can figure that out with some other clues. Hartley is beside a table. I'll go ahead and just mark that again. Hartley could be here or here. He cannot be in there. Because remember, whoever's in there is alone and has to be a woman. So these are the only spots that Hartley can be in that we know of so far. Let me mark where Coralie could be. She could be here. We already know she can't be here because if somebody's one row south of her, obviously there is not a row south of her. But she could also be in one of these spaces as well, and technically she could be here. Yeah, she just can't be in a chair because the only person who could be in a chair is Gina. So let me go ahead and mark Gina. No. And yes, I know that's not her name. I just have no idea how to say that. Okay, that's all the chairs that are available. Oh, I missed a table though. Hartley could be here. Oh, I am so silly. I just realized Delilah also cannot be in here because this person is alone. So I'm over here looking like, well, she could be here, but that is not right. So if Coralie was here, that means that Delilah would have to be in this row over here. So we're just going to put D right there. If Coralie was in this row, Delilah would have to be in this one. And she could be here or here. Okay. So we're just kind of having to reread over some of these clues and really think about it. I have to go get ready to bring my daughter to her dance class, so I will come back and we will work on this some more. Okay, it has been actually an entire day, as you know, obligations. So coming back to this with some fresh eyes. Let's see. Where did we leave off? We have Ben, Fritz, but the only two we have so far. Okay. All right, let's look at our clues again. Anthony, he was alone. Can we kind of determine that there's, okay, no Ben's in there, so he can't be here. We know he's not in here because it has to be Coralie, because she's a woman and she wouldn't be the only one in there. She also has to be alone. I don't think in here because there's too many opportunities for who's G? Oh, Gina or Hartley to be in there. But it could be here. We're gonna go with that one. Because it's the last space in this room. And I feel like it's gonna be easier to have him alone in a small room than it would be in one of these, or it's more likely that he'd be alone in a small room than in one of these big ones. So we're gonna put A, and we're gonna hope that we have this right. Okay, we X down this column, X across. Okay. Okay, so this room, the office, is done. There's nowhere else for anybody to be. Same thing with, I don't even know what this says anymore, model platform area? That's done. Supply room is done. Anthony's in there. So now, who else can we figure out? We have Hartley's beside a table. Okay, well, he can't be here because the only space would be this. Oh, I just realized the only place he could be is right here because this is the only other table, even though it's X'd out, that he can be by because this one's a chair next to it. He can't be here anymore. And we already know that Gina is the only one sitting in a chair, so he can't be there. So that has to be where Hartley is. So let's cross out his row. You know what, if we're right with Anthony being here and it's making this a lot easier to figure out, that's going to be really nice. And maybe I needed that overnight bit of sleep to kind of come back to it. So who we Hartley. Okay. Although it's totally possible we'll get to the end of this and it'll be all wrong. Like we'll run out of spaces, which you'll know if you got it wrong because you won't have a space for the victim or somebody else. So, okay, who else do we? Beverly. She was beside an easel directly south of it. Okay. Is this our only? Yeah, I think this is our only easel that she can be south of now. Okay, all right. That makes it easy. So she's over here. Cross that out. Okay. Now we need to figure out Coralie, Delilah, Gina, and then of course our victim will be in the last available spot. So, oh, but you know what? Our victim is definitely not going to be in this room because Coralie is alone, right? Yeah. She's alone because Delilah is one row south of the person in this room who is a woman and alone. So we know our victim's not going to end up in here. So maybe that's a little helpful. We'll see. Okay, so if Coralie is in this row, I keep accidentally switching to my eraser because like this pen has a little tap feature that'll switch it. I keep accidentally tapping it. Okay. If Coralie is in this row, that means the only place that Delilah could be is here. Yeah, because that would be one row south, and that's the only place that she could be. Okay, so we're gonna say, does that mess up Gina? No, there's another spot for Gina, because I was like, I see this chair with Gina. I just wanted to make sure there was still another chair available somewhere. All right, we're gonna put Delilah here. So we're gonna cross out this column, cross out this row. Oh, and then that means that Gina, hold on. Gina has to be there. So let's cross out this one. And that's going to tell us where Coralie is. And then we should be able to figure out, right, okay. So it looks like our victim, I know it's a little chaotic with all of my marks on here, but this does not have an X on it. So I think that this must be where our victim is. Which means, let me just double check. Yeah, that's the only spot. So I think we did it. Which means our murderer is the only person that's in the same room as the victim, which is Delilah. We'll see how we do here. Let me adjust. Okay. Sorry, I had to like reset everything up. Okay. Botanical garden. Do we have any extra rules? No, the killer was alone with the victim. Okay, in the same area. Like I said, some of them, at least in the book, I've never done these, the ones that, this is actually like a printable version. I think you can get it in color and black and white from the website. They have a few of them on there, which is great for you to go and try them out. But I know in the book, sometimes there'll be like another rule after this, which is like one room is completely empty, or there had to be at least one person in every room, or, you know, there's other rules that kind of help add a little extra challenge to it. So maybe that'll be in some other hard mode ones or something. There's also expert mode, which is very, very difficult, obviously. Okay, Aveline, she was one road north of Della. Brielle, she was sitting in a chair in the Arboretum. Okay, Brielle. We're gonna put a B in each of the chairs in the Arboretum. He was beside a table. Colin, okay. Here. Could be here, not there. Oh, could be there. Okay. Della, she was on a path. She was alone. Well, she can't be here since Brielle has to be there. So right now, as far as we know, she could be here or here. These are the little path tiles, these little square cobblestone looking things. Okay, Evelyn, she was sitting in a chair. She was alone with a man. Okay. We'll put here. I guess technically she could be here. And yeah, she could be here. Just not in one of these. Right? I mean, maybe. Let's see. Let's read some more of these clues. Florian, he was alone. All right. He was beside a bonsai. Gary. Okay, Gary could be in any of these spots beside a bonsai. Be here as well. The only place, okay, so Gary has to be in this room. Brielle has to be in this room. So that right there already lets us know that Florian cannot be in any of these. Harlow, she was beside a shrub. Okay, looks like there's only shrubs in the resting area. Okay, I think that's all. Yeah, okay. Idara, she was sitting in a chair. She was alone. Okay. So she can't be in this room with the chairs because Gary has to be here. She can't be here because Brielle has to be here. And she can't be here because Harlow has to be here. So that leaves us, what's the only chairs that are alone? Maybe this one or that one. So maybe, okay. All right, I'm gonna put I and I. All right, who else? Joss. He was beside a lily pad. Okay, the only lily pads are in the pond. So we will mark him as one of these spots. And Kayla, she was beside a cactus. There's only cactuses here. Yeah. Okay. So we don't know where Aveline is yet because we haven't quite figured out where Della is. Can we figure out now where Della could be? Because she's on a path and she's alone. So she can't be here, like we said, because Brielle has to be here. She can't be on this path because Harlow has to be here. So the only other path is going to be in the flower garden. So we're going to go ahead and put D for Della, this path. And if she's alone, that means that Evelyn cannot, that her name Evelyn cannot be, oh, geez, that was way too big. Okay. Evelyn cannot be there. Anybody else? Okay. All right, who else can we figure out? Idara was alone, sitting in a chair. Since she has to be either here or here. Florian's alone as well. I mean, it's more than likely that Florian will be in one of these two small rooms as well. Right? Because if Idara is in a chair in one of these, he's got to be in the other because all the other spaces, like areas, have to have somebody. So let's clear off some of this and let's rewrite this area. Okay, so Florian could be here. Idara could be in this chair, or she could be here, or Florian could be in here. We just need to figure out which room that each of them are in. Okay. Can't figure out Aveline until we figure out Della. Just in a chair in the arboretum. He's beside a table. Okay. Evelyn, she was sitting in a chair. She was alone with a man. So we know she's not going to be in this arboretum because Brielle is there and she's a woman. So even though there would be a chair that Evelyn could sit in, that's just not a part of her rule set. Same thing here, because Harlow is a woman. So Evelyn's alone with a man. Can't be in one of these because we already determined that that's the only places that Idara or Florian can go. Can't be in here because Della is alone, right? Yeah, she's alone. So it has to be one of these two, right? Yeah, no, that makes sense because Gary and Colin are both men. But Colin can't go in here because Gary has to go in here, and that would help with that rule of Evelyn being alone with a man. And this is the only place that Gary can be. So we can take Colin out, and we can also mark this column, except for the two E's, as done in a way. Let me see. So we could put X's down this column, just skipping over those two E's. Okay. And then, we'll get rid of Colin as a possibility in here. Let me rewrite Gary right there. Okay, so Gary can be in any of those spots, and we don't know where Evelyn is. But now we do know that Florian has to be the one that's in here because Idara is alone, but she's sitting in a chair, so she has to be the one that's in this one. Well, let's go ahead and clean that up. Okay, and now Florian, so we can mark this column. And the row. And Idara, we can do the same. Mark her column. And her row. Ooh, that's also going to tell us where Evelyn is. Because now the only spot for Evelyn is here. We already marked off the column, so now we can mark off this row. Okay. All right, so now who else can we figure out? I guess I can get rid of the E for Evelyn here since we figured out that she's definitely... So Colin's got to be in one of these two spots then, because he's next to a table, and this is the only other area that he could be in. Okay, but we don't have a row or a column determined. Oh, Brielle has to be in this column because she's sitting in a chair in the Arboretum, and this is the only two chairs left. So we can go ahead and mark off this column. And that tells us where Colin is now. Nice. Don't you love when like something just comes together? Okay, so we can mark off his column and his row, since we know that's definitely where he is. Okay. I see, what's her name? Kayla. She can only be in this row because she has to be next to a cactus, and that's the only two spots. So we'll mark off this row. We don't have her definite position yet either. Same thing with Della. Oh, that'll tell us where Kayla is because Della can only be in this column. It's the only available spot, which also tells us where Kayla is now. But let's mark off this column. Okay, that also lets us know where, what's his name, Gary is. So Gary's here. Mark off his column and his row. And we gotta do the same for Kayla. So column. We already have her row marked off from earlier. That lets us know now that Brielle has to be here. We already did her column, so now we can do her row. Okay, let me mark off who we have. Did we? Yeah, we did Colin. Haven't done Harlow yet. We did Kayla, Florian, Idara. Do Evelyn? Yeah, Evelyn. Okay. Oh, I see Joss. This is the only other place that Joss, I keep wanting to call him Josh, that Joss could be next to the lily pad. So let's mark off. Okay, and now the column. Okay. Check him. Who we have left? We have Della, Harlow, Aveline, and of course our victim will be whatever the last spot is. So let's see. How can we figure out? So Aveline is going to be one row north of Della. Oh, so that means Della can't be here because one row north would be this row, and that's already blocked off. So we can just mark that off. So now it's between these two spots, and Harlow has these three, right? Yeah, because if this is Della, there's a spot up here for Aveline. Or if this is where Della is, there's a spot here for Aveline. Okay. Ooh, but I'm already seeing, I think I see where our victim's gonna be because I see this blank spot. And if we picked Harlow here, it would get rid of that and that. And then, yeah, we wouldn't be able to have a blank spot for our victim because then we'd have, what's her name? Aveline right here. And then we wouldn't have a spot for the victim. So that can't be where Harlow is. It should be here. we put her here, then Della would have to be, and that's not going to work. So she has to be here then, Harlow, right? Does that make sense? Because then I would block off this and this, which would leave Della here, and it would leave that space for Aveline. And then that should leave this space open, right? I think so. Okay, yeah, we're gonna say Harlow is here, and hopefully that will be correct. So Della would be here. And then we put Aveline there. Let's see, we cross off row and her column. And that leaves us with, yeah, with just that one spot for the victim. So our killer is in the same area as our victim, and that's going to be Joss. Nice. Let's go, not here. See on there, this is the Murdoku website I was talking about. This is the printable puzzles section of it. And let's see, this is, you can play online. There's 2 books out and a 3rd one on the way for the printable section. You play online, it's pretty easy. I actually did all of these already, but I can just show you how the thing works. Yeah, I already know that. Okay, so for this online method, is beside a box. You click on him, and then you can put AA in the ceiling box. Yeah. She was sitting in a chair. Okay. Carol, she was the only person on the carpet. Dahlia, she was in the bedroom. Okay, not on the carpet. She was either beside a shrub or a plant. So we can already see that Alexander has to be here. So you'd hold down that spot and it X's out that for you. That leaves us with the only chair left that Bella is in. Okay. And then we have she's in the bedroom. She has to be here. C, she's the only person on a carpet. That's the only spot left with a carpet. E would be there, and then you take your victim character, hit submit, and it checks all of your spots, and there you go. Alright, but that's not what I came here to do just now. So with the solutions, it'll walk you through kind of the logic of how they got there before you get to it. So even if like you were super stuck and wanting to come for a hint, you could technically just kind of ignore that and read maybe the first 1 or 2 logic bits, and that might help you continue on. But yeah, so they got these printable versions with different difficulties. They also have a family Murdoku, which I'm assuming doesn't have to do with murder, so it's a little bit more of maybe kid-friendly. Honestly, guys, I could keep going, and I'm gonna be honest, when I got the first book, I think I went through it in probably the first 3 days of having it. Like, I mean, that was all I did for 3 days, was just go through every puzzle of this book. And I'm gonna be honest, I actually recorded even more puzzles that I was solving, but this video I think is long enough, so you guys let me know in the comments if you want to see more of that, or maybe you're doing your own puzzle and need a little help. If you want to try these, they're free on the Murdoku website. I'll drop the link below. And if you've got a book of your own, the 2 out now, or you're waiting on the one in October, like I am, let me know which puzzles you're stuck on. I'll probably try to solve them maybe in a future video, or I can just help you in the comments. I don't know. It would be fun. Well, subscribe if you want to keep falling into whatever this turns into. See you in the next one.